When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant.
Whoa, that's refreshing.
And a 9.5 plus pH for every way you move.
I did take a Spain class today.
Restoring like a pro. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
I tried to make more excuses to walk away, but none of them worked. I was completely alone with this man in the alley.
She started signing off as the Watcher or Stalker. I mean, who calls themselves that?
He chased us through the street as we dodged cars, cut through alleys, and made random turns to try to lose them, but nothing was working. We were running out of options.
From Killer Podcasts. True tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello, and welcome back to the show. This week, we're bringing you 4 stories that will raise the hairs on the back of your neck. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. We'll begin with a seemingly harmless crush that turns dangerously obsessive. Narrated by Autumn Brand, from Reddit user Roller Derby Queen 21.
When I was in middle school, we had these things called candygrams. They were a fundraiser for the school, usually around different holiday seasons, where students would pay to have a note and candy delivered to someone of their choice. Usually people would send one to their crush or their friends. And I had friends back then, but I never really got a candygram until Halloween one year. It was really surprising when it was handed to me during first period. I thought it had to be from my best friend and he was using it to say something stupid. But I was wrong. I opened it up and it said, "You are cute, love Anonymous." I mean, I was elated. No one had shown much interest in me at that point, so the thought of someone going out of their way to buy me a candygram was really flattering. I showed it to my friends in second period, and one of them said they might know who wrote it, but they wouldn't tell me who, and all they said was that a girl in my first period had a massive crush on me. So after some investigative work, I had a primary suspect. Trisha. She was a friend of a friend, and I really had only ever talked to her once during gym, so I had to even be reminded of what she looked like. Later in the day, though, after our Halloween assembly, I actually spotted Trisha behind me, and when we made eye contact, she slipped on a purge mask and walked in the other direction. It was only a little bit off-putting at the time, but knowing what I know now, that was definitely the first red flag. The next day, when I opened my locker, I found a pink folded up piece of construction paper, and on it, there was a poem that read, Roses are red, violets are blue. You are for me, and I love you. I mean, clearly it was from Trisha, but I wasn't interested, so I didn't really pay any mind. Unfortunately, this was the first of many, many notes. They started off innocent enough, but they quickly got really out of hand. For example, she'd say, I watch you at your house because I can just imagine how our house would look like when we're married. Or, your feet probably smell amazing. They were filled with weird, off-putting comments, and I didn't know how seriously to take them. I got 2 of those every day for weeks. Eventually, she started signing off as the watcher or stalker. I mean, who calls themselves that? I brought it up to a mutual friend of me and Trisha, who I'm actually really close with, and I learned it was way worse than I thought. Every time they hung out, Trisha would ask my friend to show her my house. My friend said no, of course. But Trisha was consistent. She kept asking, and it got so concerning that my friend actually kicked Trisha out of her house. Then my friend showed me the Google Doc. During the day, Trisha and her friends used a Google Doc to chat. Every single thing in that doc was about me. What I was wearing that day, who I was walking with, and how Trisha and I would make such a good couple. I found that Trisha had written my mother's license plate down in there. They had crossed the line. I made my presence known in the doc, and I called them all out for how creepy this was. I even added my best friend to the doc to back me up, and he lied about being my boyfriend to get Trisha off my back. Trisha apologized, and for a few days she left me alone, but when I checked back in on the doc, I saw that only Trisha and I were left in it. She took the opportunity to tell me how she was up all night, crying, writing me a love letter, but she threw it in a fire. That was the last straw. I decided I needed to get a school counselor involved, and this girl was clearly not okay. And I was afraid the stalking would only get worse. Trisha got pulled out of class and reprimanded, but the school didn't delete the doc. I checked back, and it was full of weird shit that honestly I blocked out at this point. The craziest thing about all of this is that she never even spoke to me in person. All of our limited interactions happened online, and yet she was still that obsessed. I just hope this saga's over and that this was just a phase for Trisha. I'm afraid she'll become one of those really crazy people we read about online.
Next, a woman finds herself trapped in an alley, and the man with her is hiding something. Narrated by Lizz Kellermann, from Reddit user Sunwoofied.
One day, when I was walking home from school, I was approached by a man in his 30s. He wore a dark puffer jacket, a baseball cap, and had a gray bag. He came up to me and asked how I was doing as we both passed through an alley between 2 apartment buildings. Normally, it might be weird for a man to approach a 16-year-old child like that. However, I was dealing with some mental health issues at the time, and I had just left school early because of them. So it was probably pretty clear that I was upset. I just thought he was trying to be kind. There was also a chance that he was a neighbor I didn't recognize. I took out my headphones and said, "Oh, I'm a bit okay. How are you?" We had a casual chat until he asked me where I went to school. I went to answer, but I stopped myself. He was staring at my school lanyard, which had the name clearly printed as he asked the question. That made me kind of suspicious, but I knew I couldn't lie because the answer was right there around my chest. I told him the truth, but I got an uneasy feeling. Something was off. I thought about walking away or calling someone, but I couldn't get myself to do it. Something deep inside my gut said that he'd hit me if I tried anything. I can't explain why I felt that way, but I was sure that I was in danger. Then, he asked me if I wanted to go to his place. My instincts were right. This guy was a creep, and I needed to get out of this alley as soon as possible. I stuttered, making up an awful lie. Oh, my mom really wants me to bring her back groceries for dinner. He told me it was okay, and that we could hang out another time. But he kept talking, looming over me. I tried to make more excuses to walk away, but none of them worked. I was terrified and completely alone with this man in the alley. Then he asked, "Where do you live?" I knew I had to lie. I put on my best poker face to hide my fear and pointed in the wrong direction. I looked back at him, hoping I had been convincing enough. He chuckled. Then he reached over, gently grabbed my arm, and slowly moved it until it was pointing in exactly the right direction. "Don't lie," he said. "You always come from down there." A shiver went down my spine. He had been watching me? How long? I shut the conversation down and said my mom was going to be really upset unless I got home as soon as possible. He smiled and let me go without a word, watching me leave down the alley. I could barely contain my tears until after I turned the corner. I immediately called my mom and told her what happened. Despite my pleas to leave it alone, she rushed out onto our balcony to confront him. He booked it and disappeared before the cops could show up. The cops couldn't do anything without him or evidence. But the commotion did lead to us talking about it with our actual neighbors. Apparently, they had seen him hanging around the elementary school down the street too. Thankfully, no one has seen him in the area since. But that's just a consolation prize. He's still out there, trying to find his next victim. And I've been left with the debilitating feeling that someone is always watching me, waiting in the shadows.
After making an online acquaintance, a young man quickly learns his new friend isn't as she seems. Narrated by Bodhi Crowe, from Reddit user Intelligent Test 476.
A year ago, I was really active in a fan community for a band that I love. I often posted about them online, and I recognized a lot of the other fans just from their usernames and comments, even though I didn't know them personally. One of these people was a girl I'll call Nadia. I had maybe seen her name in comment sections before, but we had never spoken or interacted directly. One day, she followed me on Instagram, and I didn't think much of it. A few days later, she DM'd me in response to a story I posted that featured a song by the band. She said she liked the song and started asking things like, had I seen them live, how many times, and where I was from. That all made sense in context. It was a normal fan chat. She mentioned she was from another country and was sad she'd never seen them live. Then it started getting weird. She'd asked more personal questions like my age, if I had siblings, things that felt out of place. I'd give simple answers, but when I asked her anything in return, she either ignored it or dodged the question entirely. The vibe was off. So I started pulling back and stopped answering her. Now that's when the long messages started. I'm talking 9 to 15 paragraphs at a time, huge blocks of text about how men had treated her badly, how no one appreciated her, how she always smiled through it all. I'd only just met her and never even had a real conversation with her. It felt like she was just trauma dumping on a stranger who never invited that kind of interaction to begin with. Then, a mutual acquaintance from the fandom, who I actually did know a little, saw me at the fan meetup for the band in our area. Let's call her Leah. She said, "Hey, Nadia says you've been ignoring her and it's hurting her feelings." I was shocked. I told Leah that I only started talking to Nadia the day before. I barely knew her and that she had been freaking me out. Leah told me Nadia had claimed we'd been talking for a week. She also mentioned that Nadia was 16 and had a habit of falling in love with every guy she talked to. Leah even showed me a screenshot of a message that Nadia sent her when she said she wanted to, quote unquote, hold me and kiss me until I fall asleep. I was honestly disgusted. Nadia had just sent me a photo of herself that wasn't explicit, but it was definitely pushing the boundary of what I'd consider appropriate, especially for her age. I should have blocked her right then, but instead I replied and told her I wasn't comfortable with what she was sending or the direction things were going. She replied with another giant message, this time explaining how she found my profile through the band's posts, had been watching my account for over a month and a half, and was in love with me. We had never met. We hadn't even had a full conversation, just a few DMs. I didn't reply. A few days later, she sent me an image of a bride and a groom kissing with the caption, "One day this will be us." That's when I finally blocked her, and I haven't heard from her since. It still creeps me out how long she had been watching me before ever saying anything. The parasocial boundary crossing, the obsessive messages, the love confessions after one conversation. It was really unsettling.
Finally, a pair of friends have their vacation interrupted, and they'll need to run for their lives. Narrated by Billie-Jewel Sexton from Reddit user Total Position 6855.
A couple of years ago, when I was 18, I visited Turkey with my best friend. We spent the first night at a fair on the beach. It had all the things you'd expect. Rides, games, kids running about, all with a gorgeous view of the ocean. We thought it was a fantastic start to our trip. We were wrong. At around 11 p.m., I spotted a man while we were riding one of the rides. He was standing nearby, staring at us with an intense focus. He was with a boy who was maybe 15. I thought it was odd, but my train of thought was completely derailed when I felt my sunglasses fly off my head. I tried to see where they landed, but no luck. We got off the ride, ready to search the ground nearby, but someone approached us. It was that man from earlier, along with the boy, and he was holding my sunglasses. He handed them back to me, I thanked him, and my friend and I walked off. We got on the next ride, and both of them followed one step behind. They sat directly in front of us, and the man kept making eye contact with me. I started getting nervous. I looked over at my friend, thinking she'd be able to ease my nerves, but she was worried too. The ride ended, and we decided to let him get off first so that he couldn't follow us. When they saw that we didn't get off, they hopped back in line and continued staring at us. We were getting genuinely scared. We decided to ride it one more time, hoping they'd leave, but they didn't. The man just stood there, watching. When the ride finished, we got off in a hurry, attempting to get lost in the crowd. We ducked around stalls and slipped through lines, hoping we created enough distance. We turned around frantically scanning dozens of faces to find out if our stalkers still had us in their sights. And there he was, the man walking right towards us. I had a terrible feeling in my gut. I turned to my friend. At the count of 3, take your shoes off and run. 1, 2, 3. We ripped off our shoes and booked it, shoving our way through the crowd and out of the fair. The man was undeterred. He chased us through the street as we dodged cars, cut through alleys, and made random turns to try to lose them, but nothing was working. With our breath growing heavy and our pace slowing, we were running out of options. We ducked into a restaurant and hid below a window, hoping they wouldn't see us enter. When we peered outside, we saw him run right past us. Thank God. With the hunters no longer on our trail, we left the restaurant and went back to our hotel. Later that week, we saw the man again. He was on the beach watching a woman who was by herself. We immediately ran to her and warned her about him. She was grateful, and the man disappeared. I don't know what he wanted or why he had a kid with him, but I can't shake the feeling that if we hadn't made a break for it, something terrible would have happened.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at disturbedpodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Declan Roars. Audio engineering by Nathan Corson and Will Prince. Executive producer Bridget Coyne. Until next time, stay safe out there.